Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Gingras. I am the school resource officer for the Guilford Public Schools. So I'm a real police officer. I work for the Guilford Police Department, but I am mostly at the high school, and I go to the middle and elementary schools as well, if needed. And so one of the things, I have a lot of different responsibilities as far as the schools. It's more of a mentorship and counseling role rather than actual law enforcement. But it's very rewarding, and I still, I really enjoy doing it. But one of the things I do, being the school resource officer, is I go to all of the elementary schools, and I talk to the third and fourth graders about internet safety. So the librarians at the elementary schools already do lessons on digital citizenship and being safe online, things of that nature. So I just come and I do a couple presentations throughout the year, usually one in the wintertime and one in the spring, so like December and April or May. And I will go and I'll basically be like a supplement to what the librarians at the elementary schools are already going over as far as internet safety and being safe online. So I'm going to go through today the presentation that I give to elementary school students, so third and fourth graders specifically, at all the schools in Guilford, and just to give you a little insight as to what topics we're actually covering, with that age group and the internet. So the first thing that I do is I do this little emoji quiz. And it's just basically to kind of like a icebreaker. And this is one that is a little bit old. This is from the winter time when I was doing the presentations in December. But if you look at the emojis, right, you have a guitar, you have a little circular arrows, and you have a Christmas tree, right? And so I asked the kids, what Christmas song is this? Usually they're able to say, oh, it's Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And I say, yep, that just goes to show you that you guys are digitally literate, right? Like, you guys speak in emojis. Emojis have certain meanings, sometimes inappropriate meanings, but nonetheless, they're able to see these emojis and put them together. And, there's kids that can have a conversation basically just with sending emojis, right? There doesn't even need to be any text. And then the second one is the three snowflakes. So I say, what Christmas song is that? And usually someone will raise their hand and say, it's Let It Snow, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. So that's just a little warm-up exercise I do before I go into the presentation. And then the first thing, I try to be very interactive with the students, encourage them to raise their hands and participate. And so the next thing I say to the class is, okay, what are some positive reasons to use social media? We all know that social media and the internet have benefits, a lot of benefits. So what are some of the positives? And a lot of times kids will say things like, oh, it's entertaining. When I'm bored, it gives me something to do. I can express myself. It's fun. I can keep in touch with my friends. And I also do these presentations for the middle and high school students as well. Obviously, a slightly different presentation, but we go over a lot of the same topics. And so some of the older kids will say things like, I can get my news that way, or what's happening around the world. I can connect with other people in different parts of the world, things like that. So there are a lot of benefits to social media. And then we go over some of the negatives, right? So like, what are some negative consequences of social media? And a lot of the things that even the younger kids will say are things like cyberbullying. That's a huge one that kids always mention as being an issue, right? Either they've dealt with it themselves, or they know a friend or someone else who's dealt with cyberbullying. Other things would be like getting hacked and strangers trying to talk to you online. So we just kind of go over what are some of the pros and what are the cons of social media. And usually they're pretty spot on with their responses, and they give some good ones that you might not really have thought of. And then, does social media impact our society? And the obvious answer to that is yes. And then I say, how does it impact our society? And it's a lot of the same things we talk about with the pros and cons, right? Like it gives people the ability to express themselves and learn new things, right? You can go on YouTube or TikTok and learn how to cook and learn how to fix things, fix cars, do home renovations. You could find basically anything on the internet. And so the kids do realize that, and they have, that access generally to all of that stuff. So after we go over how does social media impact society, we talk about what's called a digital footprint. And so this is, I say to the kids, there's an image of a footprint in cement, right? So that's something that's going to be there forever, right? You have wet cement and you stick your foot or your hand print in the cement, and then it dries, and then that is there forever, right? So I used to have a picture of a footprint in the sand, like on the beach, but I think, one student pointed out that, oh, well, once the waves come, then that footprint is going to go away. And that's the whole point of this is, with the concrete, is that, no, this doesn't go away. This is there forever. And so we talk about how the things that you post on social media and on the internet and that you say over text or messenger or whatever it may be to another person, right? Those things are going to be there forever. And, someone might say, oh, well, I can just, if I post something that, I later think is maybe, oh, I shouldn't have posted that, or maybe that's a little inappropriate, or, I'm going to take it down. It's like, okay, that's great. You can delete posts, you can delete text messages, but at the end of the day, if somebody already saw that post or saw that message, you can't take that back, right? You can't delete it from their memory. People can take screenshots. People can take a phone and take a photo of the screen of another phone, and now that image is there forever. And kids they know that is possible, but they just sometimes send things or post things and don't think, oh, well, someone's going to screenshot this. And then all of a sudden, someone does take a screenshot, and then maybe it's a post that they probably shouldn't have made, and they delete it, but now the screenshot still exists, and now that is being shared. And at that point, there's really no controlling who sees that image, right? Because now you have no clue who's sending it, who's seen it, who's saved it to their phone, who's posted it on their own social media. And that's how this stuff kind of blows up into and causes issues with students, right? Because someone posts something or says something that they shouldn't have, and now someone takes a screenshot, and now it's everywhere. And that person who was the initial poster has lost all control of that image or that text message. And there's really nothing. And a lot of times people come to the police and say, hey, can you guys do something about this? And we'll obviously try to track down people that may have seen the post and tell them to delete it if it's on their phone or saved to their phone. We'll do our best, but at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to prevent that from being spread, right, if it's already been shared among a bunch of different people. So we also talk about social media as being instantaneous, right? So not only is it permanent, but it's also instantaneous. And so, you take a photo of something and then you post it in the moment. You're not necessarily really thinking, oh, is this a good idea for me to post? Or what if my parents were to see this poster? Someone who down the road, obviously with the younger kids, but with the high school students, we talk about like colleges, right? College admissions staff seeing this photo, potential employers down the road that are going to hire you, right? What are they going to think of this post if they were to see it? So we're not thinking about all that stuff when we take a selfie and post it on Instagram. And most of the time, the things that we're posting, the kids are posting, are fairly innocent, but sometimes they're not. They're inappropriate things that could be detrimental to that student's success if someone else was to see it at some point in the future. And I always say, we have politicians and people in the government and high up people, important people in the world, in the United States, who this happens to, right? How many politicians do you see there's some kind of controversy because of something they posted, right? They're an adult, right, in the Senate or in Congress or wherever it is, and they're now being scrutinized because of something they posted in college, right? So that happens often. And we don't want it to happen to our kids here. So we really, really try to impress on the students that, listen, what you post, I always say, pretend like your grandma's going to see that post, right? Would your grandma be disappointed in you if she saw the post, or would she be okay with it? And if the answer is she would be disappointed, then it's probably something that you should not put out there online. We next talk about things that are trending. We have all these social media influencers. Kids are very familiar with them. This slide has ones that are probably like the Wednesday Addams dance. That was a huge social media thing that was going around on TikTok, but now it's kind of irrelevant, right? This stuff changes so frequently that by the time I do a presentation on what's trending, something else that's old and now something else is trending. So it's like constantly having to keep up on this stuff. Like Mr. Beast, for example, is a really, really popular, he's the guy that has the dollar bills coming out of his ears. He is a really popular social media influencer, YouTuber that the kids all know and watch, and he gives away money and cars and does a lot of great stuff. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or that inappropriate or anything like that, but just somebody that is very recognizable to a lot of the students, especially at the elementary school age. So I want to talk about something called swatting, which is something I go over even with the elementary school kids, middle school and high school. So this is a kind of phenomenon that's been happening, not just here. It's happened locally here in Guilford and other towns throughout Connecticut, but also throughout the whole United States. This is an issue. And it kind of works like this, where someone will call 911 generally, or just the police department's non-emergency number, and they'll report an incident that's fake, right? So like a fake incident that's not true. But it's not just some low-level incident like, oh, my neighbor's dog is barking, when really it's not. Like, it's not something like that. It's something very, very serious, a serious incident. Like, I'm at Guilford High School right now, and there's a school shooting. There's a guy with a gun. The police need to get here immediately. People are getting shot, right? And I have the advantage, obviously, I said I'm the school resource officer, and I am at the high school most of the time. But let's say I wasn't there. Right now, we get that call. We have every Guilford police officer who's working at the time heading to Guilford High School with their lights and their sirens on, thinking that there's someone with a gun shooting people. We arrive on scene and it's fake, right? That would be an example of a swatting call. And this is, again, happening everywhere, not just to schools. It's happening to shopping centers and other people's houses even. It's big with the video game community. So you have video gamers that are chatting online, and sometimes they don't always like each other, or they want to try and prank a certain gamer. So they'll actually, because a lot of the people playing video games will share where they live and other personal information. So if I don't like you for some reason, I'm going to say, I know your address and your name and all that. I can call the local police department where you live and say, hey, yeah, there's somebody at this house holding another person hostage, and now all of a sudden the police are showing up to your house, that person's house, because of the call that I made, right? And obviously, we can try and trace these calls to some degree, but the people who are calling these in are using fake numbers and voice over internet protocol and all these different things to disguise who they actually are. So it is very, very difficult to track them. A lot of the time, the calls are coming from people out of the state or out of the country even, which makes it nearly impossible to try and track these people down. So this is something that we do talk about kind of on the most basic level with the elementary school kids, right? Just the idea that calling in a fake report to the police is not okay. That's something that is definitely illegal. And it not only does it put people in harm's way and cause a panic, but it also waste police resources, right? Because I could be out dealing with the other emergencies that are happening in Guilford, but now I'm going to whatever school, Guilford High School or whatever school, because I think that there's some major incident going on, and I get there and it turns out it's nothing, and now it's a waste of resources basically, because now other people who may need help are not getting the help they need because we're dealing with the fake call at the school. So This is something, and this is just a news article from a couple years ago now, where there were 18 swatting calls at schools throughout Connecticut, and that was including Guilford. So it definitely does happen. Luckily, a lot of times we're able to quickly dispel, right, and confirm that, hey, this is not a real incident, and just kind of move on from it. But this is a very serious thing. So much so that there's now a term for it, right? Swatting is a term that they call it that because whatever the fake report is will usually be so serious that it invokes or elicits a SWAT team-like response, right? The SWAT team is showing up, or tactical units, or things like that. So they even have changed the laws to make this a more serious offense, where if you call, it's always been a crime to report a false incident to police, but basically if you call in a serious incident that's fake with the intention of causing panic and causing emergency personnel to have to be activated and all that, it's actually a higher level offense now because this was such an issue. So again, this is something we just touch upon with the elementary school kids, just so they know that it exists, and a lot of them know what this is. I'll say, hey, does anyone know what swatting is? And I'll have multiple kids raising their hand, and they know what it is. So a lot of this is not new stuff. It's just kind of talking about it. So going into stranger danger online, I talk about what is a stranger. And a stranger is simply someone you don't know. And just like there are strangers out in real life, there are obviously strangers online. And also just like you wouldn't go and talk to a stranger or go with a stranger that you randomly met, on the green or walking down whatever street, you're also not going, and you wouldn't give them your personal information, right? You're also not going to give your personal information to strangers you meet online. And it's sometimes difficult because kids, especially the ones who do gaming like Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft and all those different video games that have most of them have chat features. Kids are sometimes playing with the same other kids from all over the world, or all over the country at least, and they say, oh, well, this kid's not a stranger. I play with him every day after school, right? We play Fortnite together. It's like, okay, that's great, but have you ever met him? Do you know anything about him? Well, no, but we're friends because we play video games every day, right? So the kids perceive just because they play video games with a certain person online every day, oh, that's my friend, and say, no, that's not your friend, right? You might think, and they might tell you that they're, right, like, in fifth grade at whatever school in whatever town, but that could be a 40-year-old guy, right? You have no clue who that person is because you've never met them in person. So we talk about strangers online and what kind of things should you not tell a stranger. And it's the same things you wouldn't tell a stranger if you saw them on the street, right? You're not going to tell them your name, your birthday, where you live, your phone number, anything about your family, your parents' names, where you go to school, where do your parents work, your teachers' names, all of those things you're not going to want to give away, right, to strangers online, because maybe knowing that what someone's name is and they live in Guilford is not a whole lot of information about that person, but it is a small piece. I always say to the kids, it is just another piece of information that a stranger now has, and maybe through multiple conversations and the internet and social media, they can find out a lot more information about you, right? And now they're just gathering all this information that they have, and you, again, don't know who this person is. So we talk about what you shouldn't tell a stranger. What are things that are okay to tell a stranger? There are some things that are okay to tell a stranger, right? If you want to tell the person you're playing with what your favorite color is, or what your favorite sports team is, or what your favorite food is, that's fine, because those are all things that are not identifying information. And the kids are pretty good. They realize, like, hey, telling someone what my favorite food is a lot different than telling someone what my phone number is or where I live. So there are some things we talk about that, hey, it's okay to tell a stranger what your favorite color is if you feel like it, but definitely not any personal identifying information. And are there strangers online? Of course, we kind of already answered this. Yes, there are. And the kids do realize this. And I think as we talk about it more and more, it kind of, they understand that there are strangers online, and they shouldn't be giving out any personal information to those people. And so these are a lot of things that we just went over. What kinds of things should you not tell people online? It's all that personal information, you shouldn't be giving out. So, like I said, people aren't always who they say they are online, right? You might think that you're playing Fortnite with another fourth grader who just goes to a different school and lives in a different town, but really it's, a 40, 50-year-old guy. And yet you would have no idea who that person is, right? Even if their profile picture looks like they're a kid and their bio says they're a kid and they tell you they're a kid, there's really no way to be certain because you haven't met them in person. And so this is a good example. I always show the kids this slide and they kind of do enjoy it. So the picture, the picture where I look older, that is a picture of me like 2 years ago now. I was 30 years old at the time, so it was 2 years ago. So a picture of me at 30 years old. So I take that picture and I download this app for free. It's called Face App. It's free on the App Store, or Android or whatever, whatever phone you have. And it has all these different filters, right? So this app, Face App, has all these different filters. You can take a picture of yourself and apply the different filters. And so one of the filters is called the child filter. And so I took a picture of myself at age 30 and I put the child filter on, and that is the result. That's the resulting photo. It's me. And it's kind of scary because that's kind of what I looked like as a kid. So I now have taken that photo, I've applied the filter, the child filter, and now this is a fake Instagram profile that I just made for demonstration purposes for this presentation. But hey, look, that's me, right? I'm not Scott, age 30 anymore, right? Police officer, all that. I'm now Spencer, age 14. I'm from Guilford, Connecticut. I play football, Guilford High School class of 2028. And right, that's pretty legitimate. And if I show, especially so like the middle school students, when I've done this presentation and have showed him this slide, and I say, hey, would you believe I was a middle school student? And they're like, yeah, based on this, probably. So it is really, really easy. And I could have taken a photo from the internet, from Google, right, of a middle school kid and put it as my profile picture. I just did this because I wanted an original photo, and I wanted to make a point of how easy it is to manipulate photos to make you look younger or older or whatever it may be. It's really easy to disguise your identity online, and we truly don't know who we're talking to, unless we've met them in person. So this is something that the kids enjoy, and they kind of makes the point of how easy it is to pretend you're someone you're not online. I like this quote. Abe Lincoln said, "The problem with quotes found on the internet is they're often not true." And then I always ask the kids, did Abe Lincoln say that? And they all say, no, obviously not. The internet wasn't around when Abe Lincoln was alive. But this is a really, good point that like everything you read online is obviously not true. And so just kind of an example of that. So another thing that we talk about is offending people, right? So if a stranger, what to do if a stranger does reach out to you, right? So you're playing Fortnite, you're an elementary school kid, you're in fourth grade, you're playing Fortnite, and someone you don't know messages you. What do? Do you have to respond? Can you just block them? Can you just ignore them? And I go over the fact that it is okay to block or ignore someone who you don't know online if they're making you feel uncomfortable, right? So you don't need to give them an explanation. You don't need to respond to them. You don't need to feel like you're being rude. Like I've heard that before. Kids say, oh, well, I felt like this person messaged me. I don't know who they are, but I felt like I didn't want to be rude, so I felt like I had to respond to them, or I felt obligated to respond to them. And I say, don't feel that way. It is okay if some random person online thinks you're maybe a little bit rude because you didn't respond to them or you blocked their number or ignored them. Who cares, right? This is to keep you safe. It's okay to be a little rude sometimes if it's in the name of your own safety. So we talk to kids about just block somebody, right? If someone is making you feel uncomfortable or asking you for personal information, you don't owe them any kind of response. Just block them, ignore them, report them, whatever you have to do, but don't feel obligated to have to answer them. We talk about passwords and usernames, not including personal information in those, which most of the kids know. Some students still use their username as their first and last name and then their birthday, right? Or something like that, right? That's still a lot of information that you're giving out. So we go through, I say, which of these is the safest username? If I was going to create a new username, which of these would be the safest, right? My name is Scott Gingras123, probably not going to be the safest. Gingras Scott 25, which is my badge number here at the police department. That's probably not going to be the safest. Officer Scott GPD, again, all has my personal information. But Nacho Cheese Fries 1, I think that's a pretty safe username because, again, it does not give any personal information away about me. No one's going to know who I am based on that username. They might know that I like nacho cheese fries, which is fine, but it's not going to give away any of my personal information. And then the same thing with the password. Is my first name, Scott, is that a good password? Probably not. Password and 1234 are also probably not safe passwords. So which is the safest of those four is obviously I'd say the 7 nacho _ cheese with the $sign 64 exclamation point. Because, right, you got the numbers, you got the special characters, you got capital and lowercase letters, and it's not something that someone's just going to guess. So when we talk about passwords, we always talk about making a safe password so someone else can't, figure it out and hack into your accounts and things of that nature. We also talk about not sharing passwords with friends. Even though you might have a friend who you say, oh, well, I'm going to share my password so they can log in. I trust them. That's great, but right, what if they now give away your password to one of their friends, and now pretty soon everyone has your passwords. And also, you might be friends with them today, but tomorrow maybe something happens, and tomorrow or the next day or next week or next month, you're not friends with them anymore, and now this person has your password and you're not even friends with them anymore. So definitely something I tell kids, don't share their passwords. There's no reason that your friends need to know all of your passwords to your accounts. And if something doesn't seem safe, who can you tell? We talk about trusted adults, right? So obviously parents are going to be trusted adults, other family members. If you're in school, if a kid is in school and something happens, their teachers, certainly, the principal, the librarian, me. We talk about all the different people who would be trusted adults who they could go to if something happens online where they feel unsafe or uncomfortable. As far as social media apps, you might not think that 3rd and 4th graders are using that much social media, but they are, most of them. And if they're not personally, then they have friends who are. And when they're with their friends, they're going on the social media together. Most of them do have phones, smartphones, right? And so they have access to these apps. Even if they don't have smartphones, they have an iPad that their parents let them use at home, right? And then they're still accessing these apps. So we talk about, these are some of the popular ones: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat, right? So with the elementary school kids, it's mostly YouTube, a little bit of TikTok maybe, not so much the Snapchat and Instagram at that age, but certainly with middle and high school it is. But YouTube's a huge one. Many kids are on YouTube. There's YouTube Shorts, there's YouTube Kids, and they're watching videos though. Facebook Messenger is another one, right? Or I'm sorry, Kids Messenger, which is run by Facebook. That's an app where kids can message each other and parents can monitor the messages. So all these, they do have access to social media. And so one thing I'll ask is, hey, do you know how old you have to be to use these apps? And some kids will say 10, 12, some will say 13. And I say, it is 13, right? You have to be 13 years old to use these apps. And I always say, how many of you 3rd and 4th graders in this room are 13 years old? And of course, they're definitely not. And so I say, so technically, these apps are for kids older than you, right? And I'm not saying and I always say, if your parents tell you that you have permission from them to use these apps, if you have permission to use YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, that's fine. Listen to your parents, do what your parents say. They're the ones who are responsible for you. But just know that there may be content or material on these apps that isn't appropriate for someone your age. So just know that going in there, right, when you're using them, right? Because what we know that when we download these apps, we have that, right? There's that disclaimer that you agree to, the terms of service or whatever it may be, and that everyone always just clicks accept or agree without really reading it. But in there, it does say what the age is for that certain app, right, when you first download it. And for most of them, it's 13 years old. So especially the ones that have the messaging features. So they always kind of seem surprised by the fact that, you have to be 13 to use these. And then some more apps, Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft. So you could see Fortnite's 12 years old, Minecraft 7 years old. Some of these are recommended ages. They're not necessarily, and they're recommended by like Common Sense Media and these other organizations that do research on kids' media and gaming and things like that. So some of them are just like recommended ages. But nonetheless, there are these certain ages that, you really shouldn't be having your kids use these apps unless they're that age or unless you feel comfortable and have set the parental controls and all of that. So kids always are surprised by that. We talk about when you have to download certain apps and enter your age, or you go on a certain website and have to enter your age, how many kids are actually putting in their real age? It's very, very few. Most of them, and this is like one of the best comments I've heard in a while, as I was doing a presentation and one kid raised his hand when we were talking about this, and I said, what age do you guys put in, when you're signing up for registering for a new app or account or whatever it may be, or game? And one kid raised his hand and said, I always put birthday in the late 1900s, so people think I'm really old. And I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, the late 1900s? You mean like the 90s? Which is kind of scary that they're calling the 90s the late 1900s. But I thought it was really funny. And it's true, though. They're not putting in their real ages, obviously, because otherwise they wouldn't be allowed to play the games because they're not old enough. So they have to put in ages that show that they're at least 13 years old or whatever it may be. And so they're putting in these fake ages, and guess what? Now they have access to these games that, again, might have content that is not appropriate for someone at their level. We go over a few slides. I like these. These are some personal pictures I took. I'll show them an image, and we're going to say, is it safe for the internet? I'll say, give a thumbs up, or if it's unsafe, give a thumbs down. The first picture, that is my dog Stella. And I say, is this safe for the internet or is this unsafe? Some kids will say, oh, well, it could be unsafe because maybe, your dog's dog tag has your personal information on it. And I say, well, let's look at the photo. Can you see a dog tag? No. So mostly I would say this is going to be a safe picture for the internet, right? It's a picture of a dog. You can't tell really where I am. I'm in just a random background of a yard, right? You don't know where that picture was taken. It's not giving away any of my personal identifying information. So I would say, you know what, this picture of a dog, that's probably something safe that you could post if you wanted to. And then I have these two photos. So the first one is the one of me holding up my driver's license. I did blur out the personal information on there. But I say to the kids, you know what, I just last week I got my driver's license. I'm super excited. And I just took a picture of me holding my driver's license. Is that safe to post? And they'll say no, because even though they don't have driver's licenses, they know that they contain a lot of personal information. And so, of course, we don't want to be posting something like that online for everybody to see, right? And then the other one is a picture of me, right, giving the thumbs up. And it's not the picture so much that is the unsafe part, it's the caption. And so I'll read the caption to them. It says, ready for vacation, Florida, here I come. I'm out of here, see you, CT. Peace out, Cub Scout, see you in 2 weeks. Right? And it's like, okay, is that something that's safe to post right before I go on vacation? And usually the kids will say no, right? Why? Because now if I'm in Florida, if I'm in Disney for 2 weeks, who's at my house? No one, right? So now my house is left vacant And now this is basically an advertisement to anyone who might want to break into my house and steal stuff that I'm not going to be home for 2 weeks. Don't, this is for adults too, don't post your vacation pics before you leave or while you're on vacation, right? Don't let people know that you're leaving and your house is going to be unattended. Wait till you get back to post those things, because we've actually had cases here in Guilford where people have posted that they were on vacation and now they come back and their house has gotten broken into and the only reason someone knew they were away was because they posted it on social media. So something that's really important. We got the one of me with Batman, the Batman mask, and it says, bored, anyone want to hang out, text me, and then my phone number. Is this safe for the internet? No, right? Do we want to be posting our phone number for everyone to see, right? And now everyone has our phone number. And so the kids do realize that. That is actually, they always ask, is that your phone number? Is that your actual phone number? It's not. That's the phone number for the police department. So don't call it unless you need help. But if I were to put my real phone number, obviously that would not be safe. The other one with the basketball is basketball game tonight at my place, who's in, 6 p.m., and then with my address. Is that something we want to be posting for everyone to see where we live, our home address? Again, no, the kid's pretty good about knowing that that's not something that's safe to post. And again, that's not my address. That is the address for the police department. So no basketball game there as far as I know, maybe in the courts next door. But so just a couple examples that we go over of some of the different, is it safe or unsafe? And then so we talk about cyberbullying. This is how we kind of end the presentation because it is an issue. Kids do bring it up as an issue. And whether it's either happened to them or happened to someone they know or they've seen it, it is happening. And so we talk about what cyberbullying is, right? It could be name calling or making fun of somebody, right? Or threatening them. Hopefully not, but especially with the older kids, that's an issue. Posting embarrassing pictures of people, right? Taking a picture of someone and posting it without their permission. All of those things could lead into cyberbullying or be cyberbullying. And so we talk about that. And then what are the consequences, right? Kids having low self-esteem, kids don't want to go to school. They don't want to, they lose friends. Their grades, start to lower or decline. They might start to feel like they want to hurt themselves, right? There's a whole range of things that could result from cyberbullying, depending on what degree it is. So we talk about that, and then we talk about, like, this is a example of cyberbullying, right? So I post on my Snapchat story, ugh, Brendan is so annoying, I kind of hate him, like if you agree, and then if you agree, you would like that photo. And it's like, okay, is that something that is appropriate for me to post on my Snapchat account, let's say? And the answer would be no, right? Because could that be cyberbullying? Absolutely, right? Because what if Brendan, first of all, sees that post, right? Somebody takes a screenshot and shares it with Brendan. How is Brendan going to feel that I posted that? Probably not very good. And I always say to the kids, how would you feel if that was your name, right? Instead of Brendan, it was your name. Would you like if someone posted that? And they all say no, of course, they wouldn't. So talk about that. And then, so what are some consequences if we don't use social media in a positive way, right? You can impact your friendships. You can lose your parents' trust, hurt your reputation, right? We talked about how permanent social media is. If you post it, it's out there, and assume that everyone's going to see it, even people you never thought would. You could be subject to police action or even get arrested if it's a serious enough offense. It could affect college. It could affect jobs down the road. And so, there's a lot of potential consequences if, we don't use social media properly. And then there were some issues with hacking, right? Kids trying to get into other students' accounts, logging into their accounts, things like that. So we do talk about, have you ever logged into someone else's account without their permission? Is that okay to do? How would you feel if someone else did it to you? And of course, that's not an appropriate thing to do. We talk about that, and that you should not be trying to access other students' accounts, even your friends, right, without their explicit permission. And that's basically it. I go over, there's some resources here. These are all really good resources, free resources. They're available online. So check them out. Some of them are geared specifically for kids, right? Like games like the Safe Online Surfing is different games that kids can play, or the Brain Pop one. And then the others would probably be more for parents, and just explain the different apps and different parental controls that you can use when you're trying to monitor your kids' social media. So some good resources. And then I'll go back to my contact information here. So again, my name is Officer Scott Gingras with the Guilford Police Department. I'm the school resource officer. If you have any questions about social media, related to something we talked about today or something else, certainly feel free to give me a call at the police department, 203-453-8061, and ask to speak with me. Or then my email is Gingras, Gingras, another S for Scott, at guilfordct.gov. So you can certainly email me or reach out if you have any questions. And thank you so much for your time today, and I hope you learned something.